She slept through every combat drill, while her squad pushed themselves, firing rounds, climbing walls, clearing rooms. Staff Sergeant Elena Ward just sat down, closed her eyes, and drifted off like none of it mattered. Her squad hated her. Instructors wanted her gone. Everyone thought she was broken, or a fraud. But then, a Navy SEAL commander showed up. He didn't check her scores. He didn't ask a single question. He just shouted one order across the range. And in that instant, the soldier they dismissed as a failure became the one person no one would ever underestimate again. Before I reveal what he said, make sure you're subscribed, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The morning air tasted like diesel and dust, a reminder this wasn't home. At 0530, Staff Sergeant Elena Ward stepped off the transport van, boots hitting cracked asphalt already hot from the rising sun. Before her stretched the advanced combat training facility, mock buildings, obstacle courses, and shoot houses that had broken soldiers tougher than most. Ward looked unremarkable in desert camouflage, brown hair pulled back tight. But her eyes gave her away, always moving, scanning exits and blind spots like her mind was wired for threats. Staff Sergeant Ward, reporting for advanced urban combat training. The clerk barely looked up. Barack C. Bunk 15. Chow at 0630. First formation at 0800. Don't be late. These instructors eat stragglers for breakfast. Elena took her key card, duffel slung over one shoulder, and walked to the barracks with a calm that came from knowing rushing could get you killed. Around her, other arrivals grumbled about the heat. She stayed silent. Inside, the barracks smelled of soap and old leather. Rows of metal bunks offered no privacy. Elena claimed the back corner, clear view of the door, wall to her back, and only 3 steps from the exit. Old habits from places where the wrong sleeping spot could mean you didn't wake up. At Chow, she sat alone by the windows. Not unfriendly, just separate. Her tray was neat, fork angled for quick use, eyes scanning without moving. Across the room, Lieutenant Bryce held court. Perfect uniform, perfect posture, perfect smile. The kind of confidence you get when you've never been truly tested. His crew flanked him, Mendes, built like he bench-pressed Humvees, Larson, sharp-eyed with a crooked smirk, and Owen, jittery but eager. Bryce spoke loud enough for half the hall to hear. Some people earn their way into programs like this. Others get here because someone feels sorry for them. Elena passed their table with her empty tray. The laughter that followed had edges, but she didn't react. She just dumped the tray, wiped it clean, and walked out, filing their faces away like terrain you memorize before moving through the dark. The rifle range stretched under a brass-colored sky. Heat shimmered over silhouettes at 200 meters. Easy targets for someone with Elena's record, multiple combat deployments, and top marksman ratings. She stepped to the line, checked her weapon, and slid in a magazine. Commands echoed down the range. Shooters, you have 30 rounds, 10 targets, 3 minutes. Make ready. Rifles came up together. Bolts slammed home. Safeties clicked to fire. Commence firing. The range erupted, 30 rifles barking, brass flying, targets jerking under impact. Instructors moved behind the line with clipboards and stopwatches. But at Elena's lane, it was different. She raised her rifle with perfect form, then lowered it. Finger never touched the trigger. She just stared downrange, calm, like she was listening to music only she could hear. When the ceasefire whistle blew, her target was untouched. Not a single round fired. The instructor stormed over, jaw tight. Ward, you planning on shooting today, or just sightseeing? Shooting, Sergeant, she said evenly. Then put rounds on target. That's what we're here for. Yes, Sergeant. Second string, same result. Rifle up, perfect stance, weapon lowered without firing. The instructor's pen scratched hard across his clipboard as whispers spread down the line. Elena walked off, unhurried, ignoring the stares that followed. Behind her, Bryce's voice cut through. Guess some records don't transfer. Wonder what else doesn't. Next was the obstacle course, the place where strong soldiers discovered they weren't as strong as they thought. Rope climbs, wall scrambles, low crawls through sand that found every gap in your uniform. 15 obstacles, 30-minute limit. Fall behind, and you'd be running it again in full battle gear. The whistle blew, and soldiers scattered toward the first obstacle like an anthill kicked open. Elena moved at her usual steady pace, deliberate, unhurried. At the 8-foot wall, she waited her turn, then stepped forward. Mendes hauled himself over with a grunt. Larson cleared it smooth and fast. Elena stared at the wall for 3 seconds, then sat down cross-legged at its base. Eyes closed. Ward! Mendes shouted from the other side. What the hell are you doing? She didn't answer. Didn't move. Just sat breathing steady, like she was meditating. Her squad yelled at her. Time ticked away. Other soldiers fought past the obstacle, but Elena stayed still. 15 minutes later, when her squad returned soaked in sweat and sand, she stood, dusted herself off, and calmly jogged back into formation. Bryce ripped off his helmet, red-faced with anger. Outstanding. Hope the enemy waits while you nap. Nervous chuckles followed. Elena kept walking, eyes forward, saying nothing. Urban combat simulation came next. Plywood buildings, narrow alleys, stairwells, the closest thing to war without live bullets. Their mission, hostage rescue, unknown hostiles, civilians mixed in. 15 minutes on the clock. Ram the door, Bryce ordered. Mendes up front. Owen on my 6. Larson rear. Ward. He paused, eyes narrowing. Try to keep up. Elena nodded once. No argument. The ram hit, the door blew open, and the squad stormed inside, boots pounding plywood floors. Elena entered last, weapon raised, then peeled off to a corner, sat down against the wall, and closed her eyes. The simulation went downhill fast. A role player popped up, paint rounds flying. Bryce caught one in the chest before he could react. Casualty. Owen froze, went down next. Mendes fought hard, but another shot from above ended him too. In less than a minute, 3/4 of the squad was out. And Elena Ward? She sat in the corner, eyes closed, breathing steady, like none of it mattered. The alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Exercise over. Bryce ripped off his helmet, fury boiling. You didn't fire a single round. You just sat there while we got slaughtered. What the hell is wrong with you? Elena stood calmly, brushing dust from her uniform. Rear security was maintained, she said. Bryce laughed without humor. We're all dead, Sergeant. What world is that rear security? The instructor cut in, grim-faced. Ward, one more performance like this and you're gone. Show improvement or you're done. Yes, Sergeant, she answered, calm, steady. But in her eyes, something shifted. Not anger. Not defiance. Just a flicker, like a light switching on in a long dark room. By evening chow, the nicknames had stuck. Sleepwalker. Nap time. Her squad made sure everyone heard them. Bryce smirked across the hall. Planning another nap tomorrow, or finally staying awake? Owen snickered. Larson added his digs. Mendes just shook his head. She's gonna get someone killed. Mark my words. Elena ate alone, every bite methodical, eyes always scanning. When she was done, she cleared her tray and left without a word. But someone had been watching her from the start. The Master Chief. And what he saw wasn't the same as what everyone else believed. Most people looked at Elena Ward and saw someone who didn't care. Someone who'd given up. Maybe someone who shouldn't even be carrying a weapon. The Master Chief saw something different. Her gear was always arranged with precision. She moved through the base like she'd memorized every exit, every blind spot. And when she thought no one was watching, her hands flowed through weapon drills with the kind of ease no classroom could teach. These weren't the habits of someone broken. They were survival reflexes. The question was whether Ward was switched off or waiting. The breaking point came during the final evaluation, a full-scale urban assault. Multiple buildings, armed role players, hostages mixed in. The kind of exercise that separated operators from washouts. Elena's squad lined up, weapons loaded, faces tight with nerves. Everyone knew the stakes. One more failure, and she was gone. The instructor's briefing was short. Clear every building, neutralize threats, protect civilians. Fail, and it's noted. His eyes lingered on Ward. No words needed. This was her last chance. Bryce adjusted his helmet. All right. Mendy's on point. Owen, corners. Larson, rear. Ward. He paused, eyes full of pity and disgust. Try not to fall asleep. The whistle blew. The ram smashed the door, hinges screamed, and the squad stormed inside. Elena followed last, slipping to the shadows, lowering herself into a corner, and closing her eyes, same as she had for 2 weeks straight. Gunfire and alarms filled the plywood hallways. Casualties racked up. Outside, Master Chief Rodriguez watched from the observation deck, frustration building. Maybe Ward really was unsalvageable. And then everything changed. A black SUV rolled through the gate. Government plates. Tinted windows. The kind of vehicle that made people stop what they were doing. Out stepped Commander Jake Rohr. Late 40s, weathered, every step deliberate. No wasted motion, no showy medals. Just a man who'd spent years in hard places. The entire training yard fell silent as he walked straight to the Master Chief. Chief Rodriguez, he said, voice carrying with quiet authority. I understand you've got Staff Sergeant Elena Ward in this rotation. Rodriguez straightened. Yes, sir. She's in the middle of an evaluation right now. I know. Rohr's eyes locked on the building where Elena's squad was falling apart. I'd like to observe. Sir, she's scheduled for dismissal. Her performance has been. I've read the reports. Rohr cut in, calm but firm. I'm not here to challenge your assessment, Chief. I just want to see her run one more scenario. Rodriguez frowned. What kind of scenario? Rohr's mouth twitched into a half smile. The kind where she gets permission to wake up. Inside Building Alpha, chaos ruled. Bryce was down 0-2. Mendy's fought hard, but was being overwhelmed. And Elena? She sat in her corner, eyes closed, steady as ever. Then Rohr's voice cut across the training yard. One word. Ward! It carried through walls, through noise, through 2 weeks of her silence. Elena's eyes snapped open. Ward! Recall mode! Execute! The change was instant. She rose in one smooth motion, rifle snapping to her shoulder, lethargy gone. Fierce. Focused. Professional. She moved with precision, anticipating angles before they developed, firing controlled pairs before targets could aim. Bryce, lying on the floor marked dead, could only stare as she passed like a storm. In 90 seconds, she cleared the first floor with movements so sharp they looked choreographed. Every transition efficient, every shot deliberate. Upstairs, the role players had a brutal ambush waiting, the kind that crushed entire squads. Elena dismantled it like she'd written the scenario herself. 2 flanking contacts dropped instantly. A third hidden shooter went down mid-transition, as if she'd known he was there all along. Instructors in the observation deck froze. Clipboards lowered. Stopwatches dangled forgotten. This wasn't just training. This was mastery. And when Elena reached the final room, the hostage setup that had stumped squads all month, she didn't hesitate. She didn't pause at the threshold. She went straight in. She read the room in a glance, angles, backdrops, threats, and moved. 2 shots, 2 hostiles down. Hostage secured before anyone else even realized it was over. The alarm sounded, not the buzzer of failure, but the long, clean tone of success. Elena saved her weapon, pulled the hostage up, and signaled all clear. Her breathing stayed steady, her expression unreadable. Back in staging, her squad was silent. Bryce tore off his helmet, pain dripping from the hit on his forehead. His voice cracked. "What the hell was that? Who are you?" Elena finally looked at him. "Same person I've always been," she said quietly. "You just never had clearance to see it." The debrief room was small, windowless, heavy with gun oil and disinfectant. Elena cleaned her weapon methodically while Commander Rohr and Master Chief Rodriguez tried to process what they'd seen. "Recall protocol," Rohr said flatly. "Classified program. Need to know only. Deep insertion missions, high-value targets. Ward was part of it, best operator we had. 18 months, perfect record. No friendly casualties. Every extraction successful." Rodriguez frowned. "Then why transfer her here?" Elena's hands paused just briefly. "Medical rotation. Took shrapnel. 6 months recovery. Brass wasn't sure I was fit to return. Recall operatives are conditioned," Rohr explained. "They suppress combat responses until given proper authorization. Safety measure. Keeps them from going operational during normal training." Rodriguez leaned forward. "Like what you said on the course?" "That phrase." "Exactly," Rohr nodded. "Without it, they look ordinary. With it," he gestured toward the observation windows, "they become what they were trained to be." Rodriguez studied Elena for a long moment. "So for 2 weeks, she was just pretending?" Elena looked up, her voice calm. "Not pretending. Contained. The conditioning is like keeping a guard dog on a leash. It doesn't stop being a guard dog. It just won't bite until you give the command." Rohr nodded once in agreement. Command had wanted to see if Elena could still function in a regular unit after her injury. They thought the conditioning might have broken. Rohr shook his head. "You saw what happened out there, Chief. Does that look compromised to you?" Rodriguez exhaled, realizing the truth. "So what happens now?" "She's reassigned," Rohr said. "Advanced Training Command. Special Operations Cadre. Not as a student, as an instructor." Elena snapped the last piece of her rifle into place. "Wherever you need me. But not as a showpiece." "No showpieces," Rohr agreed. "Just the work." Within hours, the dismissal recommendation was erased, replaced with transfer orders. Elena Ward was finally headed somewhere her skills would be valued, not doubted. But the story didn't end with paperwork. That night in the barracks, the air was different. Not hostile anymore, just tense. Her squadmates now realized they'd been living alongside someone far more dangerous than they guessed. Bryce approached her bunk, helmet in hand like a peace offering. "Ward, we didn't know. You weren't supposed to," she said, packing her duffel. "Why not show them earlier? Save yourself all the grief?" Her answer was simple. "Because I wasn't authorized to." Mendes and Larson kept their distance, speaking only when they had to. But Rodriguez noticed them watching combat footage differently now, studying, trying to learn. Owen caught her outside the mess hall one night. His voice was low. "I shouldn't have called you dead weight. I didn't understand." "Most people don't," Elena said. The next morning, Commander Ward was gone. No speeches, no ceremony, just a black SUV rolling out the gate like he'd never been there. Before leaving, he pulled Rodriguez aside. "She'll probably request training command. Don't talk her out of it." "Why not? If she's as good as you say." "Because people like her have already given enough. At some point, they've earned the right to teach instead of fight." Rodriguez watched the SUV fade into the heat, carrying away the only person who truly understood what Elena Ward had been through. The rest of training went quietly. Elena finished her evaluations with steady competence, nothing flashy, but enough to prove she belonged. On graduation day, she stood in formation like everyone else, orders in hand, face unreadable. But those who'd seen her activated carried the memory. They knew what lived under the surface, even if it never made the reports. And in the silence afterward, one question lingered. How many others like her were out there? How many quiet professionals walking through the world, waiting for the right word to wake them up? The answer, like Elena Ward herself, remained classified. Have you ever met someone who seemed ordinary, until the moment you realized what they were truly capable of? Do you think Elena's conditioning, needing authorization before going operational, was smart protection, or did it leave her too vulnerable during those 2 weeks? And if you were one of the soldiers who mocked her, how would you feel now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read them all, and your insights shape the stories we tell. If this reminded you that the most dangerous people are often the ones you'd never suspect, hit like and subscribe for more stories of hidden strength. Share this with anyone who's ever been underestimated. More stories about quiet warriors are waiting on your screen. Watch those next. And remember, the wolf never announces itself to the sheep.